What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
I got big news for you, Tim.
Ooh,
all right. I don't want to make too big a deal. I know, of course, Greg Miller, trending gamer, right? Chicken eating champion. I've officially
Pony.
Sony Pony for sure. Yes, 100%. I've officially ascended to the ranks of true gamer. I don't know if you saw it. This is all happening very fast right now, but I've officially gotten a gaming chair. You might see here.
Oh, so fast. It's good you're in a racing chair with how fast.
No, gaming chair. A gaming chair, not a racing chair. See, it says right there, Zip Chair Gaming. Gaming. Okay. Do you understand? Won this for everybody supporting me for that Gamers versus Cancer, American Cancer Society things. Turns out not only did I get Mizzou a trophy, Tim, got a gaming chair. So no more sitting on a kitchen chair recording our podcasts. I'm in a gaming chair. So look out,
sitting in style. I'm loving it. And speaking of Blessing Adeoye Jr., the new face of video games, joining us.
Tim Gettys, you might not know this. I also have a surprise. I'd like to introduce you all to my kitchen chair. It's great. Oh no, it's very regular.
Oh my god,
it's very regular. Yeah, but it gets the job done.
And like you might think, oh wow, uncomfortable chair, big deal. Kitchen. Remember, he podcasts for 5 hours a day. P.S. I Love You is 2.5 hours every week,
and I just sit here.
Did you change the angle of your? I was gonna say of your bedroom, but I'm guessing of your camera. Blessing.
No, I changed where my bed is. I moved my bed against the wall over here so that I have more space, mainly for VR, but also it makes things look better.
Yeah, we got some good depth of field now. You're lit better.
Yeah, now it doesn't feel like I'm like cramped in a room. You guys can actually see like more of my room, and so there you go.
See the cloud in the distance.
We got the former informer Imran Khan.
I'd like to
what new shit you got to show us?
I have the same old ass chair. I put the Sonic toy my girlfriend gave me over there.
Nice, good.
So
it really ties the room together.
It really does.
Yeah,
I've always been wondering, like, what is too much for a video game? Like, how many video game directions is too much? If you invited someone over, like, and said, "This is where I live," what would be the point where they're like, "Okay, this is a little too"?
As a single man, I've thought about this a lot.
Here's where I throw the question back at you, though. Would you be at that point bringing anyone over to your house that wouldn't already know you're a video game dork?
No, usually not. But there's one Smash Brothers poster I have that I've not put up on the wall because it's like.
That's the tipping point?
It's not that if it were just regular Smash Brothers, sure, but it's very strictly a Palutena poster that was like came from Nintendo. It's like, okay, this is just anime titties. At some point, this says a thing about me that I'm not sure I want said. So,
but it's a true thing.
But is it truth? That is the question.
It has Pit is on it and Link is on it, and those are both cool. But like the overall thing is Palutena. I'm like, if someone didn't know what this is about, what would they think of me? And I'm not like it's still just.
Do you want to show us?
Yeah, can I see these anime titties?
Hold on.
Because there's no judgment here on the Gamescast. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course not. Everybody understands what's going on. There's a reason why my walls are empty.
Yeah, fucking pervert. You know what I mean?
God, how great would it be if like just out of the blue, Tim, you start Gamescast, whatever it is, number next week, and all of a sudden in Blessing's wall, it's just covered in anime titties.
Oh my god!
There it is. Hold on. Oh, that isn't bad.
There's
no, that's very tasteful. You can't even see cleavage. This kid's crazy.
Well,
Tim
I feel like out of context.
I'm gonna Google anime titties because I can't stand that.
I still get it though. I still get it. But the new edition I have, this is gonna make a little bit of noise because I don't have a shock mount yet. But I got a new stand.
Oh, that's awesome.
It looks better in real life than it does there, I promise. But the cool feature, Greg, is this little clamp. I'm not going to do it because it's going to make too much rumbly, but it's an easy adjust.
Oh, see, now that I have a chair, I'd like the microphone to be a bit higher, like here. You know what I mean?
That's a good thing to get. You can go way higher.
Kevin, I need you to get that for me.
On it, boss man.
Thank you, Kevin.
Look at how tall it can get.
Wow,
that would be actually quite useful.
Did you have your headphones on, Imran? Because we were all saying that's a letdown. Those aren't anime titties. That's just a drawing.
Okay, I've
had to Google anime titties over here, and I assure you what I'm seeing here in image search is not nearly as offensive as what I just saw.
It's not that bad, but it's enough that I would be like, I don't know, this is a bit of a
big anime girl on a poster isn't like the first like impression you want to make on a person. If anything, like Mario, you know. Like,
yeah, because this is a gaming show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast each and every week right here on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. We get together, talk about video games, all the things that we love about them. You can get the show with the exclusive post show ad-free by going to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like all of our beautiful Patreon producers did. Muhammad, Al Tribesman, James Hastings, Sancho West Gaming, Cody Banks, Trent Berry, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, Joseph O. Yusuf, and Scott Radloff. We appreciate all of you. If you don't want to be fully appreciated by me, that's cool too. You can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen to us and I'll still appreciate you by searching for Kind of Funny Gamescast on your favorite podcast service. What else do I got for you? We're sponsored today. Who are we sponsored by? Purple Mattresses, but I'll tell you about that later. I want to get right into it. Imran, what have you been playing?
I have been playing. My life for the last week has been an XCOM 2 shaped hole. I wanted to just so I had never played XCOM before in my life. I have played XCOM likes like Mario and Rabbids, and I thought like, okay, this shouldn't be too bad. I played tactical RPGs before in my life.
Wow, you've never played XCOM?
Never played XCOM.
Wow.
I knew enough about it because my brother was pretty into it, but like I got a code, I guess, from Game Informer for like XCOM 2 in War of the Chosen like a year or so ago, and just never played it. So I figured I'm going through the backlog now, might as well. That game starts off incredibly stressful, and because
it never really gets calm. It never really gets less stressful.
So I would yes and no, because at the beginning, I started with War of the Chosen because I Googled it. I saw a Polygon article that says, go ahead, start with War of the Chosen. Don't bother with the original XCOM.
Interesting.
That was a terrible idea because it explains nothing to you. And it's just an immediate thing of, for other people who haven't played XCOM, there's like a world map and there's like a constant timer ticking up of this is when the entire game ends, unless you can stop it. So it's called the Avatar Project. And it got so stressful for me by like the fourth night I was playing that game, I actually had nightmares because it was so close to ticking up and I had no idea how it was going to end. And I eventually like pushed it back. And now at this point in the game, I'm like rolling this game because it's so easy. But that game seeps into your head in a way I did not expect, of just constantly thinking about it. And the levels of stress that it gives me, I should have stopped a long time ago, but now I'm sunk in and now I have to keep going. But honestly, it might be end up being one of the most affecting games I've ever played, just because I think it's going to cause like long-term traumatic disorder for me because of how like
video games are cool.
It is cool and I'm enjoying it. It's just I've never been that stressed by a video game before.
Wow. Yeah,
but it's like a satisfying stress though. Like you're saying that like it's what the things that are causing you stress, are they challenges that you are then overcoming and feeling like you beat the stress?
Yes, because now I'm like incredibly powerful. So part of it is like the game explains nothing to you. And I did not know you had to actually buy your upgrades for like most of that game. So I beat like one Chosen and almost got to the other Chosen, which are like hero units that kind of stalk you throughout the game. And then before I got to the second one, I was like, oh, why isn't all my stuff improving? Like, why don't I see the different armor I see in other screenshots? I finally noticed the button that says build at the bottom. It's like, oh shit, I just haven't been using new equipment for the longest time. So it went from like I was fighting enemies like at this kind of level, like this imbalance, to like this all of a sudden. So now the entire game has been hilariously easy.
Just one-shotting everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved. I played a bit of XCOM 2. Played a bunch of XCOM 1, XCOM. You know what I mean? When they brought it back and put it on consoles. And yeah, like that is a game. I mean, because you're going the full 9 and naming all the characters and getting attached, and because there's permadeath and all these other things.
I stopped doing that. Like now it's just whoever comes in, whatever.
See, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it was the same way when I played XCOM originally. Yeah, it was the first wave for me that was like everybody who worked with me at IGN at the time, and you were doing the thing. You come in tomorrow like, oh, Charles got shot, and yada yada yada. And now Damon's dead, or this is what's happening. You're penned in, and like it's a fun game. I always thought there was an old video they did with Jake Solomon from XCOM, the developer in like the face of the original XCOM, and I keep saying original. You know what I mean? The Doom 2016 of XCOM, which was 2012. Yeah, XCOM Enemy Unknown.
Enemy Unknown.
Yeah. And he did a video where he went undercover and he was in a game store talking to people. And there was one where he's trying to sell the kid on XCOM. He's like, what about this game? And the kid's like, I don't know. And he's like, oh, it's really fun. You can play for like 13 hours and then just lose. And then it's just over. And the kid's like, that sounds terrible.
So Imran, like when I've never played XCOM, but I did play the Rabbids one, and I'm really into Fire Emblem. How would you compare the three of those games?
I'd say Rabbids is like a more distilled version of this without like the base building and all the constant like stuff to think about aside from battle. Like Rabbids still gets pretty hard, but it wasn't ever overwhelming. And Fire Emblem is like a very easy version of this thing that I like. Even with permadeath on, I've never felt stress in Fire Emblem. If you're passive and fairly careful, you're not going to die in Fire Emblem. This one, I feel like you can do fine.
You're much better than me. I die so much.
You can do fine, but like sometimes stuff will just happen. Like there's an enemy called chrysalids that will appear from underground, be able to move and hit you and poison you all in the same turn. It's just one of those things of, well, there's nothing I could have done about that because I had no idea that thing was there.
So then with those 3 games though, like with that being the case, like do you prefer one over the other?
I think I don't know. I think I like them all in their own way. I'm probably going to actually go back and finish Mario Rabbids because I didn't finish that, and I ended up buying the Donkey Kong DLC when it was on sale a couple of days ago. So probably not right now because I write off XCOM. That sounds like a terrible idea, but eventually I'm going to do that now. Oh, I did have one of the game I actually forgot to mention.
Go for it.
Maneater.
Do you like it?
Yes and no. It's like as a game, it's a very repetitive. So people who don't know, it's a shark game, an open world shark RPG. So it's a very repetitive game in terms of side quests and actual main quests. Like go eat all the fish here, go fight these enemies, go kill this many humans, whatever. I think I started to like it better once I understood it's basically just Crackdown underwater. That it's cause enough chaos and eventually something bigger will happen. That bigger thing could be you've evolved an electric fin. So now when you dodge things, you'll cause a current of electricity around you. Or you've got like bone teeth that now that when you chomp onto things, it's easier to grab onto them. It's that kind of thing of you start doing that more and more and you eat 10 humans and a bounty hunter comes out and you kill that bounty hunter and that's the boss. Or there's like an apex predator you got to kill. Yeah. It's not a fantastic game, and like for $40 that's a little more expensive than I think it's probably worth, but I think it's right around there. But as someone who doesn't take as many walks these days or commute as much, it's a good podcast game. It's a good game to just like chill out, veg out, like listen to something else where you're just eating a bunch of predators.
Yeah, I was surprised because I thought I played it too. I didn't finish it, but when I started it up, it was very much like, oh, cool. It's what I always say I like out of the Ubisoft games and those open world RPGs of checklists. Go there, fight all these things, there's quests over here, go collect license plates. There's, hidden landmarks for you to go hit or discover, I should say, more than hidden, and flesh out the world, different environments. There's leveling. It's an RPG the way you'd expect. And yeah, for me, it was just that the actual gameplay I found so you know what I mean, of like actually attacking and using R2 over and over again to bite or thrash around on stuff. And it's the fact of like the lock-on's kind of bogus where you shoot through past somebody and it's behind you now and you got to turn around and try to find it again. And it was just like I was playing it, and I think in a slower period or just a quieter period I still would have played more of it probably because okay, whatever, it's still there, but like there's so many things I like a lot about it. Like the idea obviously is kooky and weird. I do like the idea of as you go through and level up, you're unlocking, like you're talking about electric teeth or a better tail whip or all these different things. And like you're talking about, it's got the GTA wanted system. So, you get the bounty hunters coming after you. So then there's like, hero units to take down there and stuff like that. And I think the way they set up the game is so smart where it's as if you're watching a TV show called Maneater, very much like Deadliest Catch with the narrative. If you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, which I, for some reason, watched a lot of it when I was back in like Missouri early IGN days. So, but it's this guy totally doing the dead on impression of just like, now Captain Steve's. Yeah, it is, right? He's playing, I thought it was Chris Parnell and I never actually looked it up because he's playing it. Chris Parnell, I think, has that range where he can go super crazy with it, but he plays it just serious, but then crazy enough where it's not normal. His delivery is great and makes it entertaining. And I do think the characters they're giving you and like the overarching story they give you is interesting. It was just, the actual gameplay of it. I was like, I'm going to move on to something else.
Every time I feel that game getting repetitive, I start I do a thing where I jump on a boat and eat somebody. And it's like, oh, that's really fun. That's the dumb kind of fun. And then I'm like, okay, I'm back in for this buys me another hour.
What's interesting about it is that, and I know, Tim, we were talking about, how much do we want to do this? I'm sorry, I'm going into one of my games I've been playing. It's a combination of what you've been talking about. I started Minecraft Dungeons yesterday on PlayStation 4, a game I've been looking forward to just from screens. Haven't played it, haven't seen it, but I like dungeon crawlers. I like, Diablo and looters and all that jazz. And there was that one I played earlier this year whose name escapes me that was like pixelated and very much like this. I started up and started playing, and it is just like you're talking about with Maneater. I think a perfect podcast game. Today I played, the entire hour of Kind of Funny Games Daily. I listened to Blessing and Adam host the show while we had Minecraft Dungeons on mute, and just went through it and hacked at everything, right? And was using my arrows and doing all these different things as I went through and just clowned out all these people in Minecraft Dungeons. And it's interesting too, because my criticism of starting it was, all right, this is fun, but it seems mindless. Like, it's super easy. The first couple missions I got through without any issue at all. And then I started getting challenged and starting to have different kinds of swarms come in that you had to fight, right? And some are ranged, some are this, there's magicians doing this, like it's going up. And then similar to you, what you're talking about of not noticing you could upgrade. I had done like 3 or 4 missions before I finally was like, wait, where's all this loot I'm getting going? And finally noticed like I'd been totally ignoring the up on the D-pad or down on the D-pad, whatever it is, to actually open your inventory. And then it was like all these weapons and all these things and the enchantments to give, and like suddenly fill out my, hotkey bar that I can actually go through and use all these different things. And so immediately stepped it up, and immediately it was like, in the middle of Games Daily, turned that corner of like, oh fuck, like I'm going to spend so much time in here of just horsing around. You run the missions, and there's like a bar showing you what level you are and what level this is suggested to be at. And then you see harder versions of that same environment on the actual thing to fill in. And it seems like seamless in co-op drop in, drop out for online stuff. And it seems like it's really cool from what I've played. I'll have more on PS I Love You, but it was that's like, oh shit, fuck.
Couple questions I have about that. Do you think that the Minecraft IP is important to being a part of this game? Does it add to it at all?
I think it's important in the way it sells it. It gives it a style immediately. When I'm playing it, and somebody who has played a lot of Minecraft on console, I'm not like, oh man, it's neat to be back in the Minecraft world. Like, it is like, oh, there's a creeper. I know that if I don't kill him, he's going to explode, right? There's that. Like, when Enderman showed up today, I was like, what the fuck? Oh god, and he started chasing me, and it was like, there's a dash roll button on it that like takes time to recharge. So it was all of a sudden of trying to figure out how do I actually engage him and not just get clowned out and killed, because it's a very forgiving dungeon crawler, right? Of, hey, like, you have infinite health potion, you just have to wait for it to for its cooldown to finish. So it was that if I got hit and I needed to use it, cool, now I have to at least stay alive long enough for that to go again. Same thing with the dash. Like, I could dash unlimited times. It's just got a cooldown to it. So you have to get in the rhythm of who you're fighting, which then becomes what I love about these kind of games that are super simple, right? Of just walk in, hack at everything, shoot from a distance. And like, when you walk into a room and it's the skeletons from Minecraft, who, if you play Minecraft, shoot arrows at you, like, they're easy enough to dodge roll or walk right around and shoot and hit and shoot back at, right? Same thing with the zombie, same thing with a creeper, same thing even with some of the blob dudes that are coming at you. But it's when you're in a room of them and suddenly like, oh shit, you're spinning plates of like, all right, cool, I got to take out the ranged person, but I can't get close to that. And Enderman's chasing me. So if I run further enough, I can drag him away, hopefully from the mob, and actually get him down. So yeah, I'm sorry, to answer your question, I think all it does is drop it. It gives it they're telling a story on top of all this too, where they're like, and from what I know of Minecraft, I've never heard lore like this or whatever, where they're talking very much about this person and his quest and what he's doing, and then who you are here as an adventurer to go out and save the day and do all this different stuff. Like, it seems like they're just using the Minecraft look and notes from what you already know of Minecraft to tell you a fairy tale inside of it.
So moving on to the topic of the show, I want to do controversial gaming opinions. Now, we've done this before, infamously, when Jared Petty had some of the wildest things a human being has ever said. I'm not going to spoil those for you. You should go back and check that episode out as well. But we got a new crew now. We got a whole bunch of new people. So I kind of wanted to hear a couple of your guys' opinions. But then a whole bunch of best friends also sent in their answers to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So I want to go through theirs as well. On top of that, there's a Reset Era thread that originally gave me this idea of a ton of people giving opinions. I kind of want to read through some of those and give our opinions on their opinions, because that's the most fun thing to do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, man.
The only thread what?
I've ever ignored. I put on ignore, so I don't see that thread.
Well, there we go. Now you can't ignore it, Imran. You're here. You're part of this. Wait, while I have you on this topic, Imran, we talked about this recently. I think it might have been in a post show, but
it was you and me. I don't even know if it was a post show. I think it might have just been a Skype call between you and me.
Well, Imran is a name that I've seen on Reset Era a whole bunch.
Oh yeah,
and I never knew it was you. I could have assumed, but I'm just like, I always just know this. There's this dude with an avatar that is Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, I don't remember where. I think back when Scribblenauts first came out, like the artist for Scribblenauts was like in a gaff thread and was like, I'll just make avatars for people. And I was like, can you make me one of Conan? Because I think I had like a Conan avatar at the time. And this is
why?
like,
that's the question. Me, Kevin, and Greg were trying to figure this out because I had this revelation that this guy that I've been respecting for years on these sites was you, which I love. And then on top of that, I'm like, but why is it Conan?
I don't remember. I think it was like just I had a Conan O'Brien avatar because it was like a funny thing. Like it was like some skit I thought was funny, and that was my avatar on Gaff. And at the time, I think right after that is when, because I was shocking Alberto there. And I got a tag that was like too reasonable for this forum or something like that. And I think since people knew me with that avatar, that's just what I kept. I was like, well, if I change it, no one's going to know who I am.
So. I respect that. I respect
so
that.
funny. Awesome. Anyways, I love it. Let's start with you, Imran. What's a controversial gaming opinion?
Oh boy, this is going to be... This will be controversial, but I think also I'll just get a lot of hate for it in general. This is actually kind of topical too, so maybe this next release will change my mind in some way. I don't think Naughty Dog's games are all that good.
Get the fuck out of here!
Like I think Uncharted 2.
Poster again.
I think Uncharted 2 is one of the best games of that generation, maybe of all time. I don't think 1 and 3 I think are just legitimately not great games. 4 didn't hit me that well, and I think Last of Us is a very good video game, but the story that they put for it was like zombie tropes over and over, and 2 very interesting characters who were straight up taken from the road.
But it's well told.
It is like Naughty Dog has a lot of money, or to put it more accurately, Sony has a lot of money, and they will not let any game Naughty Dog makes be under budgeted in any way, and that makes up for a lot of polish and a lot of things that I think people will really appreciate. It's just that I think I said this in the Games That with Blessing a while ago, but Sony games don't have any rough edges, and that to me kind of comes off pretty boring in some ways. That there's no the hooks that are there, or the hook is this is a very good video game that is a good video game in the way you know all good video games, and Naughty Dog exemplifies that more than any other game or any other studio. And to me, it's like, okay, I understand that Drake now has 1 million animations for moving around things or touching every wall and all that stuff, but it also means that when I'm trying to control on a pinpoint thing or trying to make a headshot in Uncharted 3, it feels weird to me, and it doesn't feel like if they just made it like a single frame turnaround. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because it's like I just replayed Last of Us in the DLC, and we're going to get into that if I remember correctly next week for a spoiler cast we're going to do of The Last of Us Part 1. Stay tuned to Kind of Funny's Twitter for more information on that.
We're including Left Behind in that, right?
Yes, Left Behind will be including that as well. Playing through them again, I agree with a lot of what you're saying in the sense of like, wow, especially in a world now, it's 2020, looking back at how many zombie things have kind of came out, went away, came back from the dead, and like kind of kept happening. Seeing Walking Dead go from being like this amazing thing to just on the TV side kind of just taking a huge shit, and then on the comic side legitimately just ending. It's like a lot of the tropes and a lot of things that happen, like add the road to that, add all this other stuff. It's not like it did anything for the first time, but it did it really well. But then you add on the gameplay stuff and what you're talking about, and I feel like it doesn't make sense to me that it's not a good game. There's a good game there, and it might not have that pinpoint accuracy and all that stuff, but it's like all of the systems work together, and it does feel good. It feels different. It does feel a little too perfect at times, and the gameplay doesn't allow me to, shoot exactly where I need to at all times. But I feel like that's kind of amplified by the design and by where you need to shoot.
I think so the example I always think of in my head is like when you're hiding from a clicker a clicker will see Joel, it will not see Ellie or whoever else is with you. And that, from a gameplay perspective, makes total sense. That would be so fucking annoying if they could see Ellie. On the other hand, when a clicker is literally standing on Ellie, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is dumb. But also, like, I agree with you. I shouldn't have said not a good game. I think they're good games. It just, maybe this is because I've been playing video games for 30 years. It's the new ideas that are coupled with bad gameplay tend to be more interesting than the old ideas that are coupled with good gameplay. And I understand that's very paradoxical, but I see Naughty Dog games as a very emblematic of that kind of thing that I find kind of boring. These are all very good games that, for the most part, they reached for a level of like cinematic gameplay in an era where we were trying to do like that nihilistic, cynical level of video game stories that all together, like, they coalesced into something that's like, all right, I recognize this is good. I enjoyed playing this game, but it didn't blow me away. And I really wished it would have. And I think the pedigree and the budget and the critical consensus around it made me feel like this should have been more than I felt from it.
I don't necessarily agree, but I definitely understand where you're coming from as far as like Naughty Dog. Because like for me, the thing that made Last of Us special when it originally came out was kind of the fact that it was a zombie game that was going through those tropes, but I think it felt unique as a video game that was doing all those things, and as like a very narrative video game that was doing all those things. And so when it came out, it felt kind of special in that regard, even though like you could point to The Walking Dead from Telltale's another game that was doing like a lot of the same zombie tropes. But I think overall, like as a third-person action game, that game got things right in a way that made it stand out as special. But like zooming out and looking at Naughty Dog as a studio, like I definitely I get the idea that like a lot of their games do feel polished to a T, and that's the thing that you can kind of translate to first-party games from Sony in general. Like there's a conversation we've actually been having on PS Love You about like I want to say it was this last episode where we were talking about the fact that I've been replaying The Last of Us, and like as I've been replaying it, the more and more I play it, the more and more I'm like, man, I think I like God of War way better than this. And the reason why I kind of came down on that is because like when I look at the elements that I find special about The Last of Us, or at least that I found very special at the time when I first played it, like it did kind of come down to great polish, like good writing, the gameplay felt right to me. Like everything about The Last of Us for me at the time I was playing it in 2013 felt like the peak you could get to as far as like polish and gameplay and story and all that stuff working together in the way that technology has progressed in the last like 7 years. That has all kind of led up to God of War in a similar way, being like for me this very technical achievement to where I'm like, okay, like now God of War is the game that I look at as like, all right, this is graphically, this is beautiful. I love the story, like the ways in which they're like using this new console to kind of take advantage of it and like depict the story in a way that feels technologically advanced, in ways that feel like they're pushing forward the envelope that Last was set. Like, you know, I look at those things and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I think those are the reasons why I'm enjoying a lot of Sony first party games more so than a lot of other games. But in a lot of ways, those things can be boring. Like in a lot of ways, like I almost prefer games that are like your Metal Gear Solid 5s or your Dishonored's, or games that feel like they're more meant for you to have autonomy as a player and more meant for you to kind of problem solve in a way that I don't think you really problem solve all that much in Naughty Dog games. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, I get you. Yeah,
like that's kind of problem solve.
Like I feel like there's kind of an on rails element to a lot of Sony first party games, which I think you might be able to like categorize as one of my controversial opinions. Like I think like when I look at Uncharted, I look at Last of Us, and I look at like a lot of the Sony first party games that I love, I think what they kind of come down to as far as the reasons why I love them are the production value, are the budget, are like the memorable characters in these things. But when it comes to like the actual gameplay of it, excuse me, like a lot of the times I kind of crave I kind of crave like the Breath of the Wilds of the world, where I feel like I'm more so taking ownership as far as like how I want to play. When I'm playing Uncharted, I don't necessarily feel like I'm given the option of like how do I want to play, I feel like I'm kind of going through the motions.
All these pirates are coming in this room, kill them, and then you have to swing from this thing to that thing over there.
Yeah.
You get to choose like the gun you're using, but you're still doing it a certain way. Even Last of Us, right? Do you want to go loud or do you want to go quiet and stealthy, right? There's still a choice to be made there, but you're still doing the same thing in the same area, the same box.
Yeah, like even games like Spider-Man or like I didn't play much of Days Gone, so I'm not gonna use that as an example. But like, I feel like you could point to the games where you're like, oh well, you can choose how to play Spider-Man. But I think when it comes down to it, like when we have our talks about what we did while playing Spider-Man, a lot of those conversations are gonna be similar because we went through the same like the same gameplay loop, through the same strokes. Because those games, like I feel like I don't know, there's something in that Sony first party formula that works perfectly, that works amazingly, but at the same time, like I think it could lead to like how Imran is feeling as far as those games kind of being uninteresting at times.
Like Ghost of Tsushima is a good example because I'm sure I'm going to put 100 hours in that game. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, but like watching the state of play, I was going, okay, yeah, that's Assassin's Creed. Cool. Finally, they put one in Japan.
Where I was going to go is like, do you think this is actually more an indictment of third person action games in general? Because I feel like when Imran was talking about, you know, like it's a good game, I don't think it's amazing, I don't think it's this, like for me, my example of that is one of my most loved games of recent memory, right, is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and jumping back into it and going through it, even though I love doing it and I love enjoying it, you know, there's those moments where I see through the fourth wall and I'm like, I'm just doing the same thing I've done a million times. You know what I mean? What I notice sometimes is when I go to accept a mission or turn something in and I look at my phone and I'm like, so why don't I just skip this cutscene and run to the gameplay? But I love hearing Cassandra and I love the story, but I love the story sometimes in a way I love having whatever movie on Netflix while I put together a document or, you know, text him about something where it's like, it doesn't need my full attention. But then when I think about it, that just means that I'm coming back and fast traveling to a location, running to an objective, getting into a battle with gameplay I find really engaging, right, as I dodge around and do things. And, you know, I use a poison build in Odyssey. That means that maybe if you're running with a two-handed melee weapon, we have those differences. But I am just, 100 plus hours into the game, I am still just churning through battles the same way I churn through at, hour 10, hour 20, hour 30.
There's something to be said for cozy games. Like for me, I've had discussion with my girlfriend a couple of times because that's kind of her brand of, oh, this game is just cozy. And like Spider-Man is that example for me of, I like just being in this world and swinging around and just not even really thinking about it. Just the actual act of holding my controller and doing this action is pleasant for me. And I know a lot of people wouldn't describe The Last of Us as a cozy game, but for a lot of people it's a game that you don't ever have to worry about something being bad in it. It's not like we have, I don't think the story is ambitious or anything like that, but maybe people don't want an ambitious story that's also going to be bad. They want a story that they know is going to be good because it's based on well-worn foundational tropes in the zombie universe.
You don't think the story of Last of Us is ambitious?
I mean the original Last of Us.
Yeah, no. Oh, I know. Yeah, trust me. I'm as everyone knows, I have Last of Us Part 2, and I'm walking a fine line of wanting to say things that I can't say.
I can't say anything about it.
Different pros and cons.
I can fake spoil
Last of Us 1, you don't think it was ambitious to an extent or at all?
I think are we talking in terms of general fiction or in video games?
I don't know, because like, if you were to talk to me about best stories and games and characters and all that shit, I would cite Last of Us, and I would talk about the tired Greg Miller story though of the end of breaking into the doctor's office. Spoilers for Last of Us. Breaking into the surgery room, right? And waiting for the choice and the choice not coming and dying and then being like, oh, fuck, I have to kill people or at least push them down or whatever to get Ellie. Like, I don't get a choice here. This is the story they're telling me, which
I think it was interesting, but it was interesting as a sort of a not backlash, but reaction to the way certain things like Telltale and other narrative fiction was going at the time.
Sure.
So it was to not give you that choice was like it was a bold thing to do, but it wasn't necessarily ambitious is a weird word to use because it's going to be very hard to define. And a lot of people hear unambitious and they think that's bad, but it's not necessarily bad.
What would you, for this context, what would you define as a ambitious video game story?
Mario.
That worked. Like that, an ambitious story that matches the quality level of
9 persons, 9 doors, 9 something, 999, the DS visual novel. It is a very interesting thing that basically it takes the idea of visual novels and kind of flips them on their heads. And I'm not going to try and sell this a visual novel to people here, but it took the format and the limitations of it and managed to use those limitations to make something interesting out of it. I think Last of Us took a lot of money and made an interesting story out of it, but I don't think that's necessarily like. It's like, to me, it's like a Marvel movie. It's extremely enjoyable, but it's not going to be the, I don't want to say Oscar winning because Oscars are bullshit, but it's not going to break any walls down.
Hard.
Greg Miller. Controversial opinion, to say the least.
Like Ellie's gay, right? I know that's why we shouldn't argue it, I guess. It's a safe spot. It's your controversial opinion.
I downloaded Left Behind last week, so I will play that for the first time sometime in the next couple of days.
Cool, man. I really enjoyed it. Greg Miller, what's a controversial gaming opinion on?
I wrote down a whole bunch because I didn't know we were going through a thread or talking to people. So
this is my day. We're on this field. You know what I mean? I didn't expect that.
Imran's coming for my knees with this Naughty Dog shit. I'll come for him. If you
played 999 sucks.
If you've played one Yakuza game, you've played them all.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, good. Because I feel like that I said that about. So for context, Yakuza is awesome. If you've never played Yakuza, go play a Yakuza game. I love Yakuza games. I forget how many at IGN. That's where my problem lies. And this is when I kept coming back to them. To review them. I was like, okay, cool. Like some of the Crane games are the exact same things. You know what I mean? Like I can't lodge you for this fully realized Tokyo or whatever because the Red Light District. Thank you. Yeah. I can't lodge you for that because it's kind of the same thing I just did. And I know that obviously they've added zombies, they've added multiple player characters, they've had all these different things, but it's that thing of after getting out of IGN and when Yakuza really caught fire here in the West, I think, Yakuza Zero, I'd grab them, put them in and start playing and it would just be like, okay, God, I feel like I've done all this before. And I understand now Kaz is younger. It's a different character. It's this. I'm just like, I got to take time off of this before I'm able to ever come back to it, I think.
Yeah.
And when I said that, I think about Yakuza Zero, even though I could be mistaken about which one, I remember just getting torn apart.
It's more Yakuza.
And exactly. People threw that in my face for a long time. People did not like it. And I meant it as a compliment. I mean, it's more Yakuza. Yakuza is great. You should play it if that's your jam. But I was just like, I can't do this again.
It is, again, like one of those comfy games. Like, honestly, a terrible comparison might not be. It's like Fast and the Furious in a way. You know what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting when you go in. And if you're a big fan of that series, even knowing what you're going to getting is like still extremely great. It's still exciting as hell. But if you're not like a big fan, if you're someone who kind of like pokes in, it's like, oh, they're still in cars doing that. Like I understand. Like
I was just on a Funhouse podcast, Film House, with Nick and James and Adam, and we were talking about Fast and Furious a lot. No one's surprised, but something that I said in it that I've never kind of put together before. Like they're asking me like why I like it, and I came up with it's a franchise that rewards you for liking it. Mm-hmm. Where every single time a new one comes out, or every single time there's a trailer or something, it's like it's the people that want to like it and commit to it that they're making these movies for. So it's like if you are just going in and like you're from the outside looking at it, you're like, I don't get it. And I feel like Yakuza is similar there, where it's like it is to the outsider. It's like they're all exactly the same and they're not adding the things you want. But it's like it's the little changes they make that you're like, this is what's special to me. I'm not calling you out as someone that you've obviously played a lot of the Yakuzas, but
no, but I have played a lot of them and I respect them and like them, but I wouldn't say I'm a Yakuza fan. Like, so what you're saying makes sense. Yeah.
Where it's like, I just feel like with the Fast and Furious movies, like at some point I can imagine so many people being like, they're interchangeable, but it's like, to me, it's like, that's insanity. But it's like that. I understand that I'm insane for saying that, but I've invested so much. And it's like that, it's those little tiny things where it's like, oh, they're giving me what I want from this. It's like overdosing on chocolate at some point, but yeah, okay. Bless.
Chest still hurts, man. From hearing what Imran had to say about The Last of Us. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts. It hurts.
It's still a good game.
But the
just
story
did not hit me as hard.
About the story.
This whole topic is meant to hurt everybody's feelings. So just let it go.
I didn't think it physically hurt.
I'm looking forward to the subreddit comments after this one, honestly.
Oh, God.
Man. I told you I should fire Imran.
I think Journey is a boring video game and I don't understand what's special about it.
Ooh.
when I played through. And honestly, that extends to all that. Now I don't want to attack the studio, but I feel similar about all.
Flower on there, your flow. We're going for everybody.
Flower and flow. But like, I tried playing Flower and Flow, and like I beat beat Flower before I beat Journey, and then I beat Journey after it. And while playing through all those games, I didn't beat Flow because I was at that point I was like, I don't give a fuck. But while playing through those games, I was just like, I don't get it, especially Journey. Like Journey is as a game that I hear people talk about as one of the best games of that generation. Like as I was finishing up that game, I don't think I even understood the feelings I was supposed to be feeling. Like it felt cool as like an art piece, I guess, but that's kind of where the extent of that kind of went. Like I was like, okay, this is beautiful. Like it looks great. It like in terms of gameplay, like it didn't really do anything for me there, and I don't think it's supposed to really do anything as far as gameplay is concerned. Like it seems like it's really a game that's meant to be the experience.
It's interesting you say this because you are such a big fan of Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes,
which I think
and that
very kind of similar games.
But that's my thing too, is that like as somebody who's played Eco and as somebody who really loves Eco, I'm like, why don't people look back at Eco with like the reference that people talk about Journey with? Because I feel like Eco in a lot of ways did what Journey did first. It didn't have the multiplayer element that Journey has, but I think if you're talking about like a beautiful game that is about the journey, that is about you and another person going through this thing together, having like this back and forth, like Eco to me is the game that like succeeded on all those levels in a way where I'm like, while playing through Journey, I was like, all right, this seems like a 3-hour long or 2-hour long or however long it is. Eco that is less interesting to me. That looks beautiful graphically.
Can I ask, when did you play Journey? Like what year?
2015, I want to say.
Were there a lot of people still playing multiplayer at that time?
I started playing it when it came to PS Plus, so there were people on multiplayer.
Okay, for me, that game was a very singular experience where like half of it was isolation. Then towards the end, like more people started filtering in, and like I lost someone in the snow, and then I saw them again at the end of the game. Like that was genuinely imaginative and wonderful. But if you don't have that kind of experience, if you can't build a narrative around it, if it's just like, oh well, there's a dude, then it's a kind of boring game just on its own from a game design perspective. It's a narrative, a merchant narrative you can build out of it, and I think made that game special. So if you don't have it, then it doesn't really come off great.
Yeah,
even without the immersion stuff, though, to me it's the end. Like to me, it's the final moments getting to the top of the mountain. Like that shit's powerful, but it is what you take out of it type situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think they succeeded at that.
Just
I got nothing out of it.
Sitting there like, I don't get it.
I was like, is this an Inception situation? Like, am I supposed to like understand that the top's still spinning or something? Like when I finished, I was just like, all right, cool, mountain. Like, yeah, this is cool. Like I did have the experience of people coming into my game and all that stuff. And like I don't even think I had it spoiled for me. Like I think as I was playing it, like I had to make the realization that like, oh, I think this is another player. But even doing that, like, I don't know. I don't like nothing about it really hit me as like anything extraordinary as I was going through it.
So, like I said,
same with Flower also, but Flower at least had like the global warming message that I thought was pretty cool.
I fucking love Flower, man. You can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames to submit your questions and submissions for us to read on this show. Ethan and Nander writes in, and he might be on Imran's side here. Naughty Dog's shooting mechanics are super janky and never feel good.
I mean, I agree with that up till Uncharted. Well, up till Last of Us. Like, I think Uncharted 1 through 3 shooting isn't that great.
I thought 2 was fine. 3 took a weird step backwards, and I think it was a glitch that they didn't realize. But I played that game at launch, so it was one of those things. So I looked back at my Uncharted 2 stats because they give you stats of your headshots, and headshots were like 80% for me in that game. Then I looked at Uncharted 3, it was like 40% or something absurdly low. So something was wrong with the aiming controls in that game, and I think they did end up fixing that after a while.
There was some. I remember that for Uncharted 3, there was indeed a patch that did something based on player feedback, and I think I want to say they brought in post-launch a bunch of fans to do stuff, and then put it out and had like a blog post about it.
But that I've never felt the shooting. I also didn't shoot that much in Last of Us unless I had to, so I can't recall. It's never been like GTA bad, but it's always been. Not.
And that's what's funny is I feel like it's a common kind of statement to say that the shooting in the Naughty Dog games aren't good, and they compare it to Grand Theft Auto, and like that's where I'm like, I feel like with the scenarios you're put in these Naughty Dog games, it kind of the monster closet moments, they're built around the shooting not needing to be insane. So it's like it never feels bad to me because it always feels like I'm able to do what I need to accomplish. And if I don't, it restarts so quickly and you're just in the same room and you're like, all right, cool, I know what to do this time. It's like even the shooting feels linear, but I feel like that's kind of intended. Like it's not supposed to be a shooting game.
That's one of my things, and this is definitely, if you want to throw it on the evidence pile for Sony Pony, or everybody knows that I fucking adore Naughty Dog. Taking very specifically, everybody stick with me. If you remember when I came back from previewing The Last of Us Part 2, right? And I told you about the 2 different scenarios, and there was the one where I went all the way through all the different houses and lost the people, and the dog sniffed out my trail, and then I dropped down and Joel grabbed me, right? He's like, I'd let you do this alone. All of that, right? Like I talked about it in that Gamescast preview of it coming from that event, of the amount of times where I'd be in the scenario, right? And it would be down to like my last few shots and I would just get that person, right? I would just take that person out. For me, I've always taken the Naughty Dog, and granted, again, like, Andy took a shot at me during Predator last night of like, you're not that great at aiming in video games. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's true that like, for me, I'm not the Twitch shooter. Because he was like, there's no way, you didn't shoot me on purpose. I'm like, I fucking shot you on purpose. Like, you couldn't make that shot. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Now you've said something I will never let you live down because you really hurt me. But to his credit, I'm not the Twitch shooter. I'm not the first person. I'm not here with the mouse and keyboard because I want that kind of accuracy, right? So for Uncharted, I never worried about or thought about it because for me, it wasn't that kind of game of like even when you like have the pistol, right, and the circular reticle comes up and it gets just a little bit smaller. It's never like the exact crosshairs of like you're gonna hit them right there between the eyes. Last of Us, I feel in the same vein of both Last of Us Part 1 and the preview section. I'm referencing very specifically, everybody. I feel like the gunplay is used as part of the story, where it is like, you're scavenging for every bullet, so you want every bullet to count. So in Last of Us Part 1, when it is down to you and you're trying to take out these clickers, but then it goes wrong and you suddenly go through every weapon in your arsenal and you get down and you're exhausted and you have nothing left, or you have one bullet left, or like I talked about specifically in the Last of Us Part 2 preview, right, of being on my back as Ellie and like shooting all these things, and finally the dog came to me and it was like my last bullet and I took him. Like that, that is not shit that's happening by coincidence. Like those moments are happening on purpose because they want me in that scene with that desperation of going through everything and exhausting it all to come down to, fuck, I survived this by the skin of my teeth. Like and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it is just shitty shooting mechanics. I think they want it to be inaccurate in terms of I'm hitting him in the shoulder rather than headshot, because I am Joel or whatever, just some haggard smuggler. I am Ellie out there doing my thing. I am in this, situation that they don't want you to feel like you're in complete control of.
To Imran's point, though, for the Uncharted games, if that's all the case, because I agree with you, Greg, entirely, and I even think that translates to Uncharted in a more Han Solo, like shoot and fucking run away when you're out of bullets type way. Yeah. But they shouldn't have headshot counters then.
I'm right there with you. That is like mixed messaging for sure, right? It's in the same way I think that like, right, it was, I'm sure they said it, but they never drove it home. And it was like, what, till Uncharted 3, maybe even 4, where somebody was finally like, well, no, the screen gets red because Nathan Drake's luck's running out. It's not because he's getting shot. It's the build up till he gets shot. And I was like, that is very smart. Why didn't you ever say that before? You know what I mean? Like that would have, I think, framed the game in a very different way of like, we always joke around about it, right? Of like, Drake gets shot a gajillion times, and then in one cutscene he gets shot. He's like, oh God. You're like, well, he got shot in the, no, he never really got shot. Like, oh, that makes sense, but why are we just talking about that now?
Before we move on to the next one, I want to tell you about our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Purple. Technology has improved just about everything. Phones, cars, shopping, get mattresses have more or less been the same since the invention of sleep, but we deserve better. And finally, the mattress has evolved thanks to Purple. The secret to Purple is the Purple Grid. It's a patented comfort technology that instantly adapts to your body's natural shape and sleep style. Purple is for every body. You get it? Like everybody, you know what I mean? Anyway, no matter how you sleep. I've been using the Purple, the pillow, and oh my God, Kevin, you need to try this out. You need to get one of these. This Purple Grid, it makes sure that the pillow never gets hot. And like, I heard this and I'm like, I don't trust that. You know how I am with heat in my sleep. It is so perfectly cool. You never need to flip the sides. It's just always there. I'm a 2-pillow guy normally. Nowadays, I'm a 1-pillow guy. This pillow is everything I need it to be. It's fantastic. The purple mattress is soft where you want it, firm where you need it, and comfortably cool all over. It's truly a mattress that does it all. You can count on resting easy night after night, year after year, because the ultra durable purple grid won't sink or lose shape. And I can attest to that so far with the pillow, at least. Like I've had it for months now, and it is still just perfect. Purple's so confident in what they do that every Purple mattress comes with free shipping and returns and a risk-free 100-night trial. Experience the next evolution of sleep. Go to purple.com/kindafunny and use promo code kindafunny. For a limited time, you'll get $150 off any Purple mattress order of $1,500 or more. That's purple.com/kindafunny. Promo code kindafunny for $150 off any mattress of $1,500 or more. Terms apply. But once again, purple.com/kindafunny. Promo code kinda funny.
Anime titties.
Here we go. Bless. Hold on to your shit.
Oh.
DJCP says Breath of the Wild is a boring game. The world is empty. There's way too much admin. There's no real exploring, and quests are completely mundane. I think because it has some new in-game physics and a beautiful soundtrack, it gets a pass on being fundamentally not that great, especially for a Zelda title. If the same game didn't have Zelda in the title and wasn't a launch game, it wouldn't be given nearly as much props. Give me Wind Waker.
I hate that argument so much because it's so wrong. Like, if Breath of the Wild was a brand new game, Breath of the Wild would still be the greatest game ever made. Where do we even start? Me and Imran were actually having this conversation on Twitter about a bit about empty open worlds, which I thought was interesting.
I was saying that I think the phrase empty open world has been so misused over the last, like, let's say 4 or 5 years. Now that people, like, when they say empty open world, what they mean is there's mechanics of the game that don't, like, justify it being empty. Like, the lore of this world has not justified it being empty for me. So I'm not getting anything in exchange for not seeing NPCs everywhere. But what that changed into over time was people seeing the words empty open world and connecting it to something negative, and then just going, well, this world doesn't have anything in it. It's empty. It's bad. I don't think Breath of the Wild is that. I don't think Breath of the Wild is empty at all. There's stuff everywhere. There's landmarks everywhere. The thing is, for a lot of people, those landmarks are rewarding. If you're just going about and, like, I want to see everything in this game, I want to, like, the way I played Breath of the Wild was I basically had a heading. I said, okay, I'm going to go towards that mountain today. And then I will get distracted by whatever I get distracted by on the way. And that's, like, my goal is eventually to get to this mountain. And I just change goals once I hit somewhere else and do something new or discovered what's on the way there. I think that's the ideal way to play that game. Because if you're just going around going like, well, I want to get as strong as I can before I go to fight Ganon, or I want to get all this stuff around here, all around this area before I go into the dungeon, you're going to get burned out real quick. Because that is the design of open world games, is you are asked as a player to constantly look around and explore things. But if you do that, you're just going to go, I'm tired of this game at some point, whether that's 10 hours in, 40 hours in, 400 hours in. But at some point, you just need to go, all right, this is done. I'm not playing this anymore. And I think Breath of the Wild hits that point at varying places for other people. But I don't think it being empty is that reason. I think the things you find not being engaging for those people are the reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the empty open world thing too, like, the emptiest open world game I can think of is Shadow of Colossus, and that is also one of the greatest games ever made, if you were to ask me. Like, I don't think emptiness at all, like, equates to bad quality. I think it is, like, how you use the world and what the world is meant to do. And I think in the case of Breath of the Wild, like, one, I think it's very far from empty. Like, that, for me, playing Breath of the Wild felt like the world was bigger than most worlds, most, like, open worlds I had explored, because they had populated it with such interesting landmarks. Like, the actual placement and design of that world felt like it mattered in a way that, like, I've rarely seen in a video game. Like, when you're placed in the Great Plateau, right, and you look around and you see Death Mountain and you see the deserts and you see the wintry area, and you look up and you see, like, a thing flying in the sky, right? Like, the way they kind of set things up to make the open world feel vast, like, at the very moment you step foot in it, and then the way that kind of pays off over and over and over again the more you explore and discover, I think makes that game what it is. To the point of the person that wrote in, like, when you talk about, like, the quests feeling not meaningful, like, yeah, the side quests in Breath of the Wild don't feel meaningful. Like, the side quests in Breath of the Wild don't really matter. that much. At least the way I played, I'm sure a lot of people did them, but like I kind of skipped through all the side quests because I didn't find them interesting. And like like if you're also playing that game for the story, like I think I could see that being underwhelming, but I also don't think those are the things that the game is truly about. Like I think it's more so the gameplay experience, and it's more so that that immersive experience of like getting kind of lost in Hyrule and like discovering all the different shrines and Korok seas, if that's your thing. Like I think I honestly think it's one of those things where it's like if you reframe the way you look at the game and you reframe the way that you're interacting with the game, then you kind of start to get like exactly what the game wants you to do.
Like I love Breath of the Wild, right? But I remember distinctly at some point, I forget, it was early-ish on when, I don't know, we had been working all day and I came home to play and I only had a few hours or maybe even 45 minutes or whatever. And I remember getting frustrated with it because it wasn't telling me what to do. It was that thing where I had the quest log, obviously, but like remember, and it's been a while since I played. Remember, they were almost like riddles. They were like questions. They weren't telling you exactly. It's like, oh, the guy would look, I'm like, what the fuck? And I go to where I
the DLC.
I don't know. Am I? I don't remember.
I think this was the DLC.
I thought it was just the missions in general, because I remember at some point, maybe it was. Because
I mean, at least this story that you're talking about, if I remember correctly, I think it's when it was DLC 1.
Okay, and I didn't know I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know what to do, and because it was just that thing of like, that game is so special and so magical, but I think trying to play it in a specific way and make it do what you want it to do when you wanted to do it was my problem. At least that one night, because that's the only time I remember being frustrated with it. The other story I have is when Tim, we had it and we flew to Boston or New York or whatever it was for whatever event, and I remember getting up once to go to the bathroom and telling you how great it was, and sitting back down, and the flight was over. And I remember getting off like that was the fastest flight I've ever had in my life, and it was 6 hours because it was just we sat there with our power bricks playing fucking
me, you, Danny O'Dwyer. That was great. Ignacio Rojas writes in and says, Halo Combat Evolved isn't as good as people remember. I recently played the first Halo game for the first time, and while I can see why people might have liked it back in the day, the game doesn't hold up. The game does a terrible job of telling you where to go, which doesn't help when most of the time you're going through areas that look exactly the same. Waypointing is almost non-existent, only appearing at random moments in the campaign. The story is okay at best, and first-person shooter gameplay has evolved so much since then. After playing Combat Evolved, I'm not sure I want to play any of the other Halo games. What's interesting about this is I don't know that it's a controversial opinion because he's just saying that it hasn't aged well.
I think most people would agree, even Halo fans, that Combat Evolved has not aged well.
And like that's my thing is like I love Halo, especially the first couple Halos, and it's like playing it now. It's like I mean, first person shooters have come so far in terms of like even just having aim down sights. Like that game doesn't have that, But like I think the story is good, and I disagree with a couple of the things he's saying. In terms of like getting lost and not knowing where you're going. I think that, and granted, this was like back at the time, like it felt huge and I never felt lost. It felt like I was in this big place, like not knowing where I'm supposed to go next, but like you eventually find it and it was satisfying. But Greg and I are going to do a playthrough of his first time ever.
Are we?
We are. Yeah. Sometime this
Last time we tried, God intervened. So I don't know, 2 days in a row, he gave us different calamities to stop it. So
we are doing it. We are doing it for sure before Halo Infinite comes out. I want you to see where we started from to see where we're going. Hopefully where we're going is great. And it's like there's not a chance in hell you play this game and you're like, this is the best first-person shooter I ever played. But like I will be shocked if you don't enjoy it, at least the aspects that I think are unique to it and to what made Halo special.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll be like, man, but fuck the flood. Fuck that part.
My God.
Because that's all flood.
Yeah,
I actually played the Halo, the first game. What Halo CE?
Halo
is that what it is?
Yeah,
Combat Evolved. Thank you. I was like, why can't I think of what it's called? Halo Combat Evolved for the first time a couple years ago. The campaign, and I mean, to what Ignacio was saying in his thing, like it's not aged well by 2018 or 2020 standards, but like I don't know, I found it still pretty impressive as far as like putting my mind in the state of the PS2 Xbox generation, like. It still seemed like a thing where I was like, oh man, this seems really good for a game from that era. And like to the point, I don't remember getting lost that much in any of the maps. So there you go.
There you go. Doggy says Crackdown 3 was actually a pretty fun game that people just want to bag on because the graphics weren't great and it had a rough development cycle. I would have rated it above other games that year like Control and Outer Worlds.
That last part's insane. But the rest of it, like I remember going to a Crackdown event and I was like, it was played about 2 hours of the game. And I came back to the like morning meeting and said, actually, Crackdown 3 is really good. Like it's not amazing or anything, but it's surprisingly fun, which is odd considering its development cycle. When reviews came out, I was kind of surprised because it did like the reviews kind of did trash on it, but the game itself is like we were talking about, like Manhunt, like other games. It's a very good, just kind of chill, turn your brain off and just play game. It's nothing extremely special. Like if I were Microsoft, I wouldn't have made that a big thing for 5 years. But but it's a cool little game that if you have Game Pass, it's worth downloading and checking out for a little while.
Tasser Scene, aka Dr. Tash, says linear games are better than open world games, i.e., Breath of the Wild is less fun due to less direction and more openness. I loved Final Fantasy 13. Now, I can't agree with everything you're saying, but I will say I wish that I loved Final Fantasy 13, and I do not love Final Fantasy 13, but it's not because it didn't have towns and it wasn't open and all that stuff. I liked that it was linear. I just think that its story wasn't linear. And its story was too complicated, and had it been told in a linear fashion that would have made sense with factions that didn't sound like the exact same thing. Fal'Cie and C, whatever the fuck. I don't even know. I'm sure. L'Cie, Fal'Cie. Come on, guys. Like garbage. But the game was super fun, and there was a lot there. And I feel like the flip side of that, it's funny he brings up Breath of the Wild and Final Fantasy 13 specifically, because I think that while I didn't need the towns in Final Fantasy 13, and that's not what bothered me about that game, the towns were something that really added to Breath of the Wild to me, that made it feel not empty. That anytime you'd find one, it felt like a real world. It felt like something that wasn't just like, oh, this exists here and there's nothing in between it and the next town. It felt like, oh, there's a reason this town's here, and this town has a unique culture to it that it makes sense with the climate and the biome that it's currently in. And that's why the emptiness is a weird thing for me.
I think a lot of this is preference, which I think is fine, like whether or not you're into open world games or linear games. I found though recently that I think I'm starting to hit the point where I more prefer open world games over linear games. Like when I'm thinking about the games that I'm most excited for, like I'm really looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima. I'm really looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077. I'm really looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2. Like there's something about being able to kind of get lost in a world and go whatever direction and kind of fuck off and do your thing and explore like a really big space that has been really appealing to me lately.
Is it appealing to you lately? Because don't get me wrong, that always appeals to me too. But I also feel like I go back and forth, right? And also it's this idea that games are getting more open because of tech, because of demands, because of whatever. Even, yesterday, yes, it's Thursday. Yesterday in the state of play for Last of Us, right? They talked about like bigger open environments than ever, right? They showed Ellie on a horse, showing how easy, very much Breath of the Wild, how easy it was to ride around different places and get to different things. Like I think games are opening up that way. Last of Us Part 2 being an example of it, right? Of like, there's a cry for that, and I don't. It's almost like how we used to in the old days, like, oh man, this game has RPG elements. Like that would be something you would talk about in a review. Whereas now we assume pretty much every fucking game has RPG elements, right? What does that even mean anymore? You earn stuff as you go, you level up as you go. I feel like it's so rare now, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot with a shotgun pellet of 100 games coming out tomorrow. But I feel like it's so rare that you have those linear games that get those. I think AAA has moved to an open world spot, if that makes sense, where it's more likely than not that the AAA big budget, whatever they're pushing, is going to be more open world, have that kind of mechanics. I mean, even roping in Last of Us, like I'm talking about with what they showed, than the bunch of AA linear games that are going out right now or whatever, I guess.
It's interesting you say that, because like there was an EA financial call recently where they kind of noted a backlash against open world, where they're trying to go with, like, because of the success of Fallen Order, which maybe that success is primarily because of it's a Respawn game and a Star Wars game, but they see like a bigger chance for linear games to be a huge thing now again. And I don't necessarily think you're wrong that like a lot of AAA games now are open world, because it's a big selling point, and if you got the money, why not? Yeah. But I do think we're viewing a bigger schism in the gaming market /community /whatever these days of the idea of making your own fun and the idea of having the fun designed for you, and there are people who will just I don't remember who wrote in, but when that's probably one of their things is they prefer linear games because the game is designed for you to have fun. The designer has a specific emotion they're trying to elicit from you from their design. Meanwhile, open world games are a list and saying, okay, we want the act of doing this thing to be fun, but how you go about it is going to be up to you. And some people find that more fun.
2D Mario versus 3D Mario.
Yeah, it's honestly very similar to that. Like, for me, it's just kind of, you can do both in either, honestly. Like, I didn't really like Red Dead because of the way it held your hand in a lot of ways, but I do like some open world games that do hold your hand. I like some open world games that are freely open. I like some linear games that, let you do things the way you want to do them.
Matt Dowse says, my most controversial opinion, Chinatown Wars is the best Grand Theft Auto game by far. The drug dealing mechanics not making it into GTA 5 was mad, as I lost so many hours to selling across the city.
Chinatown Wars, I can't believe how, myself included, how much that game gets overlooked. I'll forget about it. When we did PlayStation Hidden Gems on PS I Love You, I brought it up because granted, it started as a DS game, I'm aware, but what a fucking game. What a fucking game Chinatown Wars is.
It was part of a really disastrous Nintendo E3 conference where, I think that was 2008, where,
the Wii Music year.
I don't remember, might have been Wii Music, might have been Ravi Drums, yeah. Ravi Drums and Cammy Dunway and all, that stuff where, they kind of pivoted hard towards casual audiences. And their two core games were Animal Crossing, which should tell you a lot about what they think about what core is, and GTA Chinatown Wars. So a lot of people just kind of held that against that game because who wants to play a GTA on DS? But it had a lot of good design decisions and the mini games were surprisingly fun, and it was a good melding of that classic GTA with the more, at the time, more recent 3D incursion of GTA.
Let's see. I shouldn't be surprised at how many anti-Naughty Dog things there are, but there are quite a bit.
Really? Dozens of us.
Robert Mims says, my controversial gaming opinion simple. Naughty Dog's overrated and their games don't feel good to play. I've tried and failed to enjoy every Naughty Dog game since the Jack series, owing mostly to the gameplay just feeling sluggish and heavy to me. I don't want to hate on anything. I just don't think they make games that feel good to play.
Wow.
I will say I don't like the word overrated, in general.
I can see that. I can feel that too. I feel like I could have vibed with that more during the PS3 generation because I had a lot of complaints about Uncharted, especially Uncharted 1 through 3, during the PS3 generation. I feel like Naughty Dog's really got their shit together on the PS4 though. I feel like Uncharted 4 felt perfect to play to me. Same with Lost Legacy. And I guess Last of Us was a PS3 game. I almost forgot, but Last of Us also is a game that for me, for the most part, feels fine. Even though replaying it now, I'm starting to see the where gun sway can kind of get kind of annoying. But I don't know. It's interesting to me to hear people have this opinion.
Bless. This episode's just targeting you, man.
Is it really?
Is that Sonic?
Oh, no.
No, it's not Sonic. It's not Sonic. It's not Donkey Kong. Amyad Fredman says, my most controversial gaming opinion is Metal Gear Solid 5 is a bad game. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. It's a stealth game with not very good stealth, a third-person shooter with not very good shooting, and an open-world game that feels repetitive, bland, and uninspired. I picked it up, excited to experience a 10 out of 10, and left after 5 to 10 hours wondering what I was missing that everyone else seemed to get.
A master of all trades?
Solid 5 at all. Metal Gear Solid does one thing right, but it does it so fucking right that it almost compensates for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is the story is the worst Metal Gear story, but the stealth gameplay is the best stealth gameplay out of any video game I've ever played. And so when you're talking about jack of all trades, master of none, it's literally the opposite. They literally min-max stealth in that game. They're literally yo, all right, how do we put all our stats into making this the best stealth game as possible? And they're all right, to do that, we just got to sacrifice the story. And then Kojima signed the document, and they had a great day.
He just took out the part that says story and then added long Jeep ride, and that's the entire game.
Then
whatever. Staying with this, Josh from Maryland says, regarding my opinion, mine's that Hideo Kojima games are just not fun. I've tried over and over, and I appreciate the art, but I do not care about credits plastered every mission, confusing controls, obtuse gameplay, incomprehensible stories, and puzzling trailers. Beautiful games, though.
I think 1, 2, and 3 are amazing. 3 is legitimately one of the best games of all time.
Yes.
4, I could take or leave. Like,
it's fucking fantastic. I will fight you.
So here's my problem with 4. 4 is the game was designed in such a way that it wants you to get in firefights when you're caught. And I don't like playing Metal Gear Solid games that way, because in Metal Gear Solid 3, the individual area was a smaller screen, like a smaller area. However, if in 4, they're all fucking huge because it's the PS3 generation. They wanted to go big. So if you get caught and you restart or get gunned down or whatever, you start way back at the beginning of a very long area, which could have been like 45 minutes of stealth back. So that's an annoying thing that I'm like, the fact that they didn't recognize that makes me think that they expected it to be more of an action game, which is not the way I play those games.
It's the way I play games, and I fucking love it for that. Like it feels like Uncharted to me, and you can play it that way, and that's, oh my god. It reminds me again of Fast and Furious, what I was saying, where it's a Metal Gear Solid 4 rewarded you for liking Metal Gear Solid's craziness.
Yes.
And like from a story perspective, I was just like, fuck yeah, let's go, baby. Nanobiologist. I'm liking this one. Assassin's Creed is the most influential video game ever made. It added mechanics that we still see in modern gaming, including free running, towers to reveal maps, climbing up almost any structure, detailed alert meters, etc., and doesn't get enough credit for being the father of the latest generation of gaming, starting in the 360 era. Additionally, Breath of the Wild is severely overrated and takes too much credit from other games that do everything way better than the half-assed features of Breath of the Wild.
I feel like everyone
hate y'all, man. I hate y'all.
Put the Breath of the Wild thing aside. The Assassin's Creed stuff.
I agree. Like, I don't know if it's Assassin's Creed pioneered all that stuff, or it just happened to be on the cusp of it. Like, it happened to lead that vanguard. But it definitely, like, you can trace back a lot of lineage to that first Assassin's Creed game, especially AC2. But it just so happens that's kind of where third-person action games were going at the time. I don't think it's entirely that, like, Patrice Désilets, like, created all this stuff on his own from his own mind. It's just, yeah, that's kind of where the game design in general was heading at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast of most controversial gaming opinions. We didn't even get to the Reset Era thread. We didn't even give too many of our own. We definitely did not get through.
Tim. My last controversial gaming opinion is that I Am Alive is a terrible game, and it's not a story I bring up often. This is a game I reviewed and gave a 4.5 on IGN. I wrote it in all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paragraphs is all it took me to say. I Am Alive has great ideas and poor execution. It ends up being a flat, frustrating game that isn't worth your time or money. Meanwhile, over on fucking Game Informer, Tim Turry comes in, gives it an 8.5, says good survival games have been hard to come by this console generation, but I Am Alive proves there is still new ground to break. The great oppressive atmosphere, constant struggle to find supplies, and combating wanton scavengers transports players to a world only experienced in harrowing novels like Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I Am Alive's desperate scenarios and inventive gameplay should not be missed by masochist gamers interested in entering a world of unrelenting dread. Fuck that, Tim. You're crazy. It has currently on fucking Metacritic right now a 69 for its Xbox 360 debut. A 69. You're all fucking crazy people.
That was that Jade Raymond game, right?
That was Ubisoft. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was Ubisoft Shanghai, though. Did she have something to do with it?
She might have been executive producer, but I'm not sure. They attached her name to it in some way.
And it took forever to come out.
Yeah.
Something tells me we're going to do this topic again, going into way more stuff. But even now in the post show, if you're a patreon.com/kindoffunnygames supporter, we're going to be getting into even more of your controversial opinions. Let's get to it.